I had no real plan for what was going to happen next. And I think that's also part of my journey is I don't really have always the end in mind. It's like I'm doing this next hard thing and I'm going to do it well. And then it just turns into something totally unexpected.
Hey there, friends. I'm your host, Eric Branner, musician, educator, and founder of Fonz, the platform that helps music teachers run thriving studios. My guest today is Elizabeth Swift, a prolific composer published by Alfred Music, creator of the Saga Land series, and the 2025 Ohio Certified Teacher of the Year. She teaches piano to students from age 6 to 63, has built a studio where families often stay for over a decade, and is just about to release Saga Land 2. And somehow she's also a mother of 4. Welcome to the podcast, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here. I've been so excited to talk to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And you've got a lot going on, and I want to just dive right into that. So tell us about Sagaland 2.
Saga Land 2 is just a continuation and like a little bit of digging deeper into the world of Saga Land. And the whole idea of Saga Land is it's video game inspired music for piano students, but it's a little bit different than like something that might be video game themed. And it is creating a whole world, a whole atmosphere that students can immerse themselves in and kind of feel more in charge of each piece and each character as it's like an environment in a video game. So we're expanding that world with Saga Land 2. Saga Land has been really fun to see kind of take off and become very, very popular with teachers and students. And so we just wanted to go a little further with it. So we have more of like an intermediate level collection, and it will actually be coming out at MTNA on Saturday.
Wow, that's amazing. And we had just kind of figured this out that I think that Sagaland 1 started to be published by Alfred last MTNA, and I was sharing with you my first experience of that work was standing in the booth in front of where Sagaland was being presented, and all the teachers coming in and reading through it and being so excited about it. So I got to watch the buzz about it last year, and so many people enjoying it and talking about it, which was great. And so Sagaland 2 is going to be, it's a different level. Is that what you're saying? It's more of an intermediate level series. Is that is
Yes,
the crux of it? Is the world's the same, but you're taking it to another level of technical and ability.
exactly. Things are becoming a little more complex musically. You know, we have more challenging rhythms, more complicated themes, and more expression for sure is coming in. Really, I'd say that if you opened up Saga Land 2, there are one or two pieces that would remind you of the level of the harder ones in Saga Land. And then when you finish the book, it's a late intermediate level.
Got it. And could you share a little bit about your inspiration for Sagaland, for the entire thing, for the idea?
Okay. So I actually was inspired to do something around video games before I even started composing. So I am a classical musician through and through, trained very traditionally. And growing up, I never really had the desire to create music, play by ear, nothing like that. So I was a really good sight reader. And so I would just read music, learn it quickly, perfect it, and move on. And I discovered, I want to say like 2010, something like that, that I could improvise. Okay, but I was not composing yet. So I was just starting to figure out, oh, wow, I can actually do what I want with no music. This is kind of cool. Whereas before, maybe I would have equated that with like either you play classical or you play jazz. And that's when you improvise, as if you're like a jazz player. So I had just recently started discovering that, but it was not composing. And let's see, it was my third son, and he was in morning kindergarten. And we would, after school, head to the basement and we would get into these massive Wii battles. And I loved Mario Kart because I knew how to control that system. I was a really good driver in real life. So that could translate really well into Mario Kart. And even though my 5-year-old was still better than me at that, it was still, I was really good. So that's the extent of my video gaming was the Wii. But what I noticed in Mario Kart was that the each level that you were in just fit the mood of the world that you were in so incredibly well. It just was seamless to me, and it would just transport you so well. And then sometimes he would go ahead and play Super Mario Galaxy. I don't know if you've ever played that, but that music is insane. Now that's a one-player game, so whenever he wanted to play that, it was time for me to relax on the sofa, and I would just listen to that music, and it would just be so soothing and immersive. Like you would just kind of almost forget where you were. And that is what inspired me, was trying to kind of create that world. And then when I started to compose more officially, and I was writing music for my students first, just very utilitarian, like, okay, now that I know that I can do this, we're going to rewrite this piece at an easier level or something like that. But then these worlds just started to come together.
And let me make sure I'm getting this right, because I agree. The world of Nintendo music is so compelling and it's so appropriate and it so serves a purpose. And I love that you picked up that. But you were also saying that this is the same time that you were beginning to improvise. Right? That
Yes.
was so that those two things kind of came together. You're starting to be interested in improvising. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So I volunteered, very uncomfortably so, to fill a need at my church, which was they needed someone to play keyboard on the worship team. And I'm an okay singer, so I was kind of thinking if I ever joined, I would definitely sing. But they had a need for the keyboard player. So I was like, okay, I volunteer. So I show up at the first practice and they hand me, like this very white piece of paper with lyrics and then chord symbols. And it was a little bit intimidating. I definitely had to do some homework. Not only, I mean, I know my chords okay, but it was like getting to kind of flow from thing to thing that was so difficult. And I really had to practicing a lot, like way more than was efficient, because I'm going to have to put it out there. I'm a piano teacher, so I had to work very, very hard to get that to a level where I was proud. So that was the first step. So I'm acceptable. I'm feeling okay. I'm showing up and I'm feeling good. And then little by little, either the pastor or the worship leader would say, okay, now, Elizabeth, can you just noodle, improvise for like 5-10 minutes on these chords? And, cold sweat. And then I actually started being able to do it. And I was shocked. So it just became this thing where I got inside the sound and just see where it took me. I stopped like overanalyzing, you know, and just got inside the sound. And that was what helped me so much.
Wow. So that's just it's a great story because so many piano teachers and pianists, especially, have a similar story to yours of starting out. They're good sight readers, they're great classical players, they're very expressive, and you put a lead sheet in front of them, and it's really scary, right? Because what am I supposed to do with these chords, and how am I supposed to fill in the sound? It's a completely different idiom, right? How that music is shared and played. And it's so cool. You did the scary thing, right? Which is I'm a really great piano player, but I'm put in this position where I don't know what I'm doing in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you figured it out. And I'm asking because so many people you meet, especially piano teachers and pianists, have a real desire to start composing or a real fear of improvising, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that a lot.
Right.
Or people that are great at improvising often have a real fear of sight reading, right? And the story of how do I get from being a great piano teacher and a great pianist to being someone who composes music, it's really important to look at the journey because it's not as simple as saying, well, I went to school for this and then I did that. There's always these little things that
Right.
your pastor talked you into trying to do this thing. You didn't do well, you sweated it out, you figured it out, and then you started to find joy in that. And at the same time, you're on the couch hearing the music to Mario themes with your son, and you're seeing how effective that is in that universe. And those two things kind of coalesced
Mm-hmm.
into inspiring you to do this book series, right? Am I getting
Sure.
that right?
Yeah. I mean, there were a few little
Yeah.
detours, of course. And when I first started composing, I wrote in the way that I was trained. So I really ended up writing a lot of like nocturne style pieces
Hmm.
to get started. And I had no real plan for what was going to happen next. And I think that's also part of my journey is I don't really have always the end in mind. It's like I'm doing this next hard thing and I'm going to do it well. And then it just turns into something totally unexpected. So, yeah, I would start to play the pieces I was writing for my family, and I would kind of go by their reactions. And my family's very musical, so I kind of was trusting, okay, this might be okay to put out there. And then I did start self-publishing from there. But my first few pieces were definitely more romantic in style, very lyrical, expressive. And that's how I teach as well. It's like I'm really trying to draw out expression from my students, almost like trick them into playing musically.
Yeah. And how, yeah, how were you, as you're writing, you're also
Mhm.
teaching, were you testing your pieces on your students as you were going? Was that, or is that something you shared with them, or were you not ready for that yet when you first started?
I think the way that translated immediately in lessons is I was encouraging them to improvise immediately. I think that's where I took it. It wasn't so much that I was sharing my like experiments or finished works with them. In fact, I still am actually a little bit weird about that. I feel a little strange giving my students my music.
Really?
Isn't that weird? I don't even know
No,
what to do with that. But
it's not
yeah,
weird. I totally get it.
you
Yeah,
get it?
I
Okay.
do. Yeah, I
Because
always
I
feel
love my
awkward when a
music. I
student
think
comes
it's
to my shows.
amazing.
Yeah.
You what?
When a student shows up at one of my shows, I always feel
Yeah.
awkward. I'm just like, oh, what's going on?
Oh, yes. It's like a crossing of worlds. It's like a
Yeah.
conflict of interests. In a way, it's kind of,
I'm guessing everybody listening to this right now probably just related to that moment. Yeah, because I think we all there is that thing. It is. It's a it's a conflict of interest. That's beautiful.
so weird.
Okay. So your students, and another great thing that I just heard you say that I loved and I really recognize is you found this real curiosity and this interest in improvising. Excuse me. And you had that same enthusiasm that you then applied that to your teaching. There's
Mhm.
nothing cooler than when, as a teacher, you've been doing something a long time, and a musician, you find a new thing that you're excited about and you're learning about and you're leaning into to share that with your students. I feel like that's one of the most effective times as a teacher that we exist, right? We're bringing
I
that energy of,
agree.
I'm still growing, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
That's part of being an artist. I'm putting myself out there, I'm doing scary things. I love that you shared that you started bringing that into your studio. How did that first start presenting itself as you started learning to improvise?
It actually, the most popular way that we did this was we would finish a piece. Let's say we're in a Faber book, like a level two or something like that. And we finish, oh my gosh, actually, one of my very favorite pieces called Snow Star was this way. The piece was called Snow Fall, I want to say. Okay, that a student completed, did wonderfully. She earned her sticker. So we got in this habit of what sticker we choose and where we place it changes the title of the piece. So we changed the title of the piece when she completed it to Snow Star. Okay, so now we're like, well, now we got to redo it because it's a different piece. And then we would just start taking the piece, but just morphing it slightly to make it sound more like its new title. And
So
that piece did end up becoming a real piece of mine because it was super cool.
I'm absolutely stealing this. So you take a finished piece,
Uh-huh.
student selects their sticker for crushing it. You reframe the piece based on the sticker and the original title into something new. And then you put a realm or a layer of improvisational journey over top of that. That's awesome. I bet your students love that.
They do love it. It's almost like motivation to finish the piece in a way.
Do those students ever share those improvisations or get a chance to for other people to hear them?
Sometimes there's varying levels of interest in like what I would say they might call perfecting it, but we definitely have a lot of students who write their music down in my studio.
Yeah, I love that because it's like Beatles-esque, right? Which is taking these shells of a piece or a composition and building it into something else is such a great way to be productive and learn how structure and form actually work and
Yes.
being able to play with a sound and within sounds. Just sitting down and telling someone to improvise is so hard.
Hmm.
but saying, take this tune and take Blackbird and write your own song with it. Really,
Hmm.
it's a great way to really expand and expound upon that knowledge. That's a great trick. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And I really think it's an easy way to let them start feeling creative because it's the safety net is already there. They don't have to change everything. And then if you want, you can always tie it back into what have we done theory wise. And that is a whole nother lesson because what better way to teach a theory concept than I did it on my own because I wanted to create a certain sound.
Yeah, and you're creating a much more full experience too, where it's not just trying to get the piece out and be expressive in the piece, but really you understand things so much more differently when you start to
Hmm.
play with them. And that's how all the composers have always done things, is to
Yeah,
take those and often improvise in real life as they're going.
right.
That's on stage. It's a beautiful tradition. So when you started composing, because you have a lot of work out, and you said you began by publishing your own work.
Yes.
So would you start writing things out, throwing them into Finale
I
or
had
something?
finale, yeah, in
Mhm.
those days, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kind of figured out how to put stuff on Sheet Music Plus, honestly. I think that's where I started. And then I ended up getting my own website. And I also spent a good chunk of time on Melody Payne's website
Okay.
before she had stopped. Yeah. And that was huge for me. That was a great audience. And I was able to really feel like what I was doing was needed. That was a really good experience for me.
So when you started composing, you found was this basically online, or were these teachers you knew through MTNA, or just that you were able to start connecting with and getting your work out
Oh, they
there?
usually would find me online, I feel like. They would see me like
Okay.
peddling my wares online and say,
Really
"Hey, we'd like to put your music on our website." Yeah. Hmm.
interesting. So you were writing, and then other people found you, and they wanted to promote your work or sell your work,
Host it.
host it, yeah, whatever. Okay, got it. That was your process. What times was that when you first started doing this?
I started writing, I think my first copyright date was 2017.
Wow. And so you did that for how long? And then what happened where you became published through Alfred?
Now that happened because I went to the Northern Kentucky, let's see, it was called the Tri-State Pedagogy Conference, which is actually down at NKU, Northern Kentucky University, and I met Davis Duro. And he said, "Hey, I've been listening to your music and you've got some really cool sounds. Would you be interested in having just a chat about maybe having your music live somewhere else as well, like Alfred?" And so I was like, I would definitely talk about that, yes. And then once I met with Davis, it was just a very comfortable feeling, where I didn't really have any reservations once I met Davis. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this for sure. And I will be honest, I have someone who's kind of familiar with the music industry that was saying, "Oh, you're going to get your works rewritten. Just be ready for that. When you send them in, you will may not even recognize it when they're all done editing it." And that has not been my experience at all. It's been really, really positive as far
Wow.
as, yeah, kind of like taking your music, making it a little bit better, a little bit cleaner, and maybe a little bit more of a certain level that, like, Davis is very familiar with that type of thing with Alfred because they're very clear on this, what each level is capable of. So it's been huge for me. Really, really positive experience.
And you're saying that the edits and the changes, these are really the intention is to tighten them up per level for what the
Correct.
intentional audience is who's
Correct.
playing it. So it's both pedagogically and technically appropriate and musically appropriate for the person
Yes.
playing. So that's a whole other element. When you're writing these pieces, is that a big part of, like, are you pressure testing that as with your experience as a teacher, or do you just compose your work and then after you write it, do you try to be like, oh, that's a huge leap, that's not going to work, or
I try to start with the level in mind. And one
mm,
of the things that I like to do is I play a bunch of music that's at the level that I'm going to be shooting for to like re-familiarize myself and just embody that student who's ready for this piece. And then I just try to improvise from that place. And I always start with some type of image, or honestly, image is my favorite thing. Maybe a title, or
An
an
image
image.
more than a title, I was saying. So something in
Usually,
your
yeah.
mind is more powerful
Yeah.
than a title.
Yeah.
Wow. And when you sit down, I love that you play, so you get familiar with this level that you're working towards. You do begin with a level in mind. You have some kind of image, and then you start playing. You start improvising. You start building from there, looking for
Yes.
some kind of germ or something that jumps out to you to reflect
Yeah.
that image in your mind.
And sometimes that might start with a melody. And I think in my earlier compositions, it definitely did start with a melody. And then I think nowadays it starts more like a groove. And I think that's because I do so much of this video game style, not only in Saga Land, but in my work with my helping my students improvise, is we start by looping. So we come up with, let's say, a seventh chord, okay, and we just play the notes one at a time over and over. We might go up, 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 or we might go up and down, but we just stay in that sound. And just a little at a time, we might change a few of the notes. If we don't like something, we just keep going. And I think, I don't know which really came first, but I think that's now how I write. So I kind of groove until I like where I've landed. And then like, okay, that is a keeper there. And then we just keep building from there.
I see. And I really wanted to get into this process, and I wanted to take it all the way back to when you started, when you discovered improvisation. And I think because it's so interesting, and I think the learning moment is that, and if you talk to 100 people, and every interview that I have, the story of how they got to where they got, it's always different,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but the underlying theme is a natural curiosity, a willingness to
Yes.
do the scary things, and you find, and what you're talking about right now, your process, everyone's process can be different, but somehow you found this process where you get things done and you seem to have a good time doing it and the pieces feel alive. And perhaps, putting these, what, a constraint such as a level, right?
Yeah.
Or a constraint of having a image of how you want to, where you want to begin this, or a chord or a groove. These things allow you to, or an actual piece. If you're building
Mm-hmm.
off of snowflake and turning it into snow star, having something to give you a journey. I think those are the big thing that every single person listening, that I know so many people are so interested in wanting to start this, but we
Mm-hmm.
get bogged down.
We
I'll
do.
sit down to compose for guitar and just be like, this is going to be amazing. It's going to be triumphant. And then 45 minutes later, I'm like, I'm playing nothing. So I think it's really cool to hear that process of, and your creative journey from becoming an expressive classical pianist, being a teacher, being an improviser, having a kid that loved video games and the music and hearing that, all these little things, it's so unique. And I think you've talked about this before, how your creative journey has transformed or shifted and morphed over time, right? And I'm assuming that's
Mm-hmm.
to keep you, I'm guessing, to keep you interested and keep you engaged.
I think so. And I think there's a level of challenge there. And I don't always see this. Sometimes it has to hit me over the head. But I've had periods of time in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm just a little bored. And I may not see it. I might just feel a little down or something like that. But I think I'm just bored and I need that challenge to balance things out. So if I have that challenging item in my life, I feel like everything just kind of works. And let me see here. I think I was going to say, hold on. The other thing is that the composing or the improvising or whatever became very personal. So it honestly got me through some tough times to be able to come to my piano and in the dark, maybe play a melody and just start to flush it out and just sit there for an hour with no expectations. It's just, I just needed it. And once I saw that it was serving its own purpose, well, again, I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but it was just providing that balance. I feel like that's huge for me.
Yeah, and what you're describing, I often think of as these moments in life when music becomes the giver in the relationship of
Mm-hmm.
our, right? When you're
Mm-hmm.
in a moment when music carries you through. Everybody,
Yes.
when you're a teenager and you hear those songs and somehow that gets you through your teenage years, or composing or playing during a difficult time, or whatever you're experiencing, how music, and then that deepens that relationship because you're so grateful that you
Mhm.
had that and the skills that you had to, yeah, I can really, really relate to that. That's lovely.
I do still have some overwhelming moments. In fact, I can give you an example of just this week, which was that I was playing through Saga Land 2 and, kind of practicing because when you write music, you don't always play your music every day. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is a sick part. I love this, and practicing. And then I was also practicing playing along with a backing track for one of the pieces in Saga Land, which is an idea that some genius came up with over there in Alfred. I don't even know who it was, but it was to come up with these incredible cinematic backing tracks for the Saga Land pieces. And because they lend themselves really, really well to being built out and just becoming like these epic things. And so I was practicing along with a track that somebody else made, that somebody else had the vision for, with only a tiny bit of ideas from me. And it just exploded. And that was just the coolest feeling to know I almost had literally nothing to do with this. Somebody else was inspired to do this. And just seeing the different artistic, like, I don't know, talents of other people come towards a project that I might have started is just like incredible. And so I was so grateful in that moment. And I just continue to be, but it was very striking at that time.
And that is another observation is that you take, when you have those moments and you experience them, to see your work applied to another canvas with other creatives that elevates it, is to take the moment to honor the wins, right? Because
Mm,
there's so many moments in our careers where there's the struggle and there's figuring it out and there's deadlines and this doesn't work and that didn't sell. But being able to take the moment, like, whoa, that
yes.
is awesome. That is so cool that this exists and what this does to the piece. And just to, you have to drink those moments in, right?
Hmm.
Because they're not every day. And it's
Right.
great that you look for them and you see them. And you're getting ready to, you're heading to MTNA and you're going to be doing some, you're going to be talking about Saga Land, or you're going to be sharing the work there.
Yes, I'm doing two different times where I'll be sharing. And one is like a mini masterclass at the booth, the Alfred booth, where I'm going to just to kind of talk through some of the pieces. And I really get excited to imagine, and for Saga Land too, mostly, but I really get excited about what student would love this piece. So I love to think about like what types of students might need this at certain times or might really engage with this type of piece, and then kind of talk about what they would learn while they were doing that particular piece. And then we are also going to be demonstrating our new backing track for Saga Land at that time.
Oh,
And then we're
awesome.
also going to be sharing with a whole bunch of amazing composers at the Alfred Showcase. And so my masterclass will be on Sunday, and then the showcase will be on Monday. And, there's just incredible stuff coming out of multiple composers that I'm super excited to hear, especially Dennis Alexander is premiering a new piece that he wrote for the 150th.
Yep.
So that's going to be fun.
Now, do all of you composer folk, do you all hang out and talk and stuff? Is there like a secret Facebook group or something where you all chat, or
Let me just say this, if it exists, they have not invited me.
so it doesn't exist? Okay. I always wondered, yeah,
No,
maybe at a coffee shop or something.
no. I mean,
Okay.
I talk to a lot of piano teachers,
You do.
happily so. But no, I don't really hang out with composers.
Yes. Yeah, I want to ask you about that. So you still maintain a studio. You're teaching a lot.
Mhm.
How do you, is your community of piano teachers, and I know you're involved heavily with MTNA there in Ohio, right? So do you, are you active in your local chapter? Is that where you get to hang out with those a lot? Do you have a pretty active local MTNA chapter, or is it, are you talking more like on the interwebs of maybe pressure testing your new pieces with other teachers out there that you know?
No, really, I think I've got two groups that I really participate in activities with a lot here locally. And one is the Ohio MTA Southwest District. We have like this dream team of teachers in our district. Incredible, amazing teachers, creative people. You have seen them out and about because they're producing things.
Wow.
And then they're wonderful presenters and they're kind people that you want to spend time with. So I'm not saying we're hanging out on the weekends, but we are just very connected, and it's a very active group. And then we have like a suburban Cincinnati group that's very small, and we really run our own events. And so I also am pretty involved in that one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, I'm actually the only guitarist, I think, in the local Seattle Music Teachers Association. But it's such a great group of teachers. We have Peter Mack is in our
Oh,
so we just
that's
have
cool.
we have all these great folks. And I've been in there for I was the past president because it's such a great group of kind people. And I value it so much, just
Hmm.
having that group of local people to connect with and talk about teaching. And even though I'm a guitarist, it's still, I get so much value from it. And I'm so grateful for it. Do you, in your private studio, what does that look like now? Because I mean, I'm trying to, you juggle a lot of things. You're composing, you're teaching, you've got a family, and yet you just said, "Oh, sometimes I feel like I get bored and I just need this thing." Is this just part of your makeup, or
Maybe. I
yeah?
think I grew up doing a lot of things.
Okay.
My mom used to say I could keep a lot of balls in the air. I don't know. I think everything is giving me something that I have in my life. And I feel like I need all those things. So I love teaching. And I think the thing that's been really special for me with my studio is starting a student when they're young and just watching them. Every week, I see these people grow. And I just cannot think of another relationship that is like that. It's very special. And then to have students stay with me until they graduate, I don't even know how I function once they leave. I somehow do. But it's just really cool to me. And yeah, I can't, it's hard for me to picture not doing that. And I love composing. But yet, would I want to be in my room here all day by myself composing? I probably not. And to be fair, I only have one child left at home, and she's about to turn 17.
Whoa,
So it's
really
not like I've got people under my feet and stuff. I do have two dogs under my feet, but no people. Yeah,
interesting.
my children are 25, 23, and 21, and they all have gone to Belmont University. And two of them have graduated from there and have stayed in Nashville. And then one is currently still in Belmont. So they just keep going to Nashville.
Wow, that's a good place to be.
It is. And it's pretty fun to visit. And I
Yeah.
think that my fourth is kind of wanting to go there.
Wow, a
I
four-peat?
know.
That's
It's weird.
wild.
I know. Who does that?
Is that like a family school where everyone goes to Belmont or something? Or
Maybe we're trying to make it that way, you know?
yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I think that everything you're saying is what's so great is it's a makeup for you that works well. And I feel the same way. Like teaching is just something I can't imagine not doing. And
Hmm.
the benefits of it, of seeing these kids grow up. And you had mentioned that a lot of your students stay with you like a decade,
They
right?
really do.
They really do. And it's heartbreaking to watch them go to college, but you've also had such a big part of their development. You've been
Hmm.
there from the time they were 7 to 17 or 6 to 18. That's a long time to have that relationship
Hmm.
with a family and a child. And it's really special.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel honored, honestly. And a lot of times, I don't know if this is typical of studios, but most of my families, I'm teaching multiple children. So I really do. You mentioned the family, but like I really get to know these families and the parents, and it's just unique.
Wow. Most of your families, you teach more than
Hmm.
one child.
Yeah.
That does seem pretty unique. Huh. Wow. When did you start teaching in Ohio?
Oh, in Ohio. Let's see. I think I've been teaching in Ohio for, I would say I started teaching in my town in the year 2000.
Got it. So is everything for you referrals? Something tells me you don't have to like run
Oh
ads.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
So you stay as
Yeah.
busy as you want to stay.
Hmm.
You have that flywheel set up with love. The studio
Hmm.
runs itself. Your composing does its own thing. If you were talking to somebody who was starting, especially a lot of people who listen to this are in music school, they're pedagogy majors, maybe they're music industry majors. They're getting ready to go out on their own. If you were to give some advice to somebody just getting started in their career, how would you share that?
I just think any small start is still a start. When I first graduated, I actually had a degree in piano performance and music education, so I could have taught in the schools. But when I student taught, I just didn't feel like that was the best fit for me. So when I graduated, I just started working in a job where I was running the education program for a church, not in my field. It was a need. But then on the side, I started teaching in the choir room of that church, started teaching piano. And so I always had just at least a small number of students, and we would still do everything like I was a big studio with recitals and parties and stuff like that. But because of things like that, like I never actually stopped teaching. I started teaching when I was a teenager, and neighbors used to come to the house. And then when I could drive, I drove to people's houses and taught them. And then even in college, I was always teaching people. That's part of your degree is you teach private students. And so anyway, I guess I'm just saying that even if it seems really small, if it's a thing you love, I definitely keep doing it, even if you have to do other things to make it work.
And you said you could have taught in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't call out to you. Was this a gut thing? Because I'm sure looking at a lead sheet with a bunch of chords over top of it didn't call out to you either when that was first presented to you. So two scary things.
Yeah.
Yet one you were compelled by and followed to great effect. The other you said, this isn't for me. I'm going to do something else. Is that an instinct that you would
I think there's
encourage?
definitely a lot of gut in my reactions for sure.
Okay.
But I mean, I was dropped into a classroom. I was student teaching like 130 junior high singers at once. To me,
Oh,
it was overwhelmingly clear
yeah.
this is not a fit for me. So it wasn't like a lot of deliberation. Thankfully, I didn't feel like I needed to do that, because I don't think that would have been a service to those students either.
Yeah, because that's something when I'm encouraging people beginning at the beginning of their careers and they're out there, is trying to find that line between not doing something because it's scary and you're afraid you won't be good, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing when something's not right for you, because it's a
Right.
balance, right? You don't
Right.
want you want to do things that sometimes you're going to fail at. You want to try them, but also knowing like, oh, that's a hard no. That's a
Mm-hmm.
no as a complete sentence. That's not me.
Right.
And being able to navigate that, I think that's a real skill that leads
Yeah.
to an
And
awesome journey. Yeah.
if you can ask yourself, is that a skill that I should have or need to have, or it's going to make me a better person if I have it? And if that ends with a clear answer, that's amazing. I don't know if that's always the case. And like I said, for me, it is a lot gut. But yeah, I agree. If you can follow that path, it leads to a pretty awesome life.
Yeah. And these profound moments. They're like
Yeah.
you've shared 7 or 8 of these tiny little moments that were really pivotal, that are literally like sitting on your couch in your basement is one of them, or going to going to a church and trying to accompany somebody. These little moments, those are the big defining moments when you look back. And the key is trying to find or trying to follow the combination of your gut with your curiosity, with your wanting to do, right? With
Mm-hmm.
your wanting to contribute, wanting to stay busy, wanting to be creative, wanting to feel engaged. Like, I think that's the equation, right? That you just
Right.
want to really push and share and encourage everybody into, is to find that, because it seems like that's the recurring theme. Everything else seems like divine intervention. Like you just meet this person, or the car
Right.
breaks down and you run into that person.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
so
So, and again, that kind of does go back to just doing what's right in front of you because you just never know where it's going to take you.
when was the last time you felt bored? I love that. I love that you
Um,
said you feel bored, because I was like, this is the busiest person I've probably ever interviewed. And when you said that, I was like, I got to come back. So, what is when boredom sets in for Elizabeth Swift? What is that like?
I'm scrambling to find a book on my iPad. And then I find that even when it's large and I have my readers on, I can't really read it. And then I just like head on back outside and I don't know, take a walk. No, I think that I am looking forward to some boredom that's coming up because after I'm in Chicago, I'm going to take a break. And my daughter and I are actually heading on a spring break trip. and we're
Oh,
going to be laying at the beach.
so
And
you
I'm
do
really
stop.
excited about that boredom.
This is
Yes.
part of the thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. So
Remember
there's some
balance.
planned. Okay, good to know. So you're going to give yourself a little bit of a window of time
Yeah.
to rest and rejuvenate. Okay.
Yeah.
That because you got to do
I
that
think
too.
there are times of the year, especially when you're a music person, that are just insane. And so when you don't have to be as busy, I definitely enjoy the moments that I got
Okay.
nothing to do. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And do you have a plan for your a project after Saga Land 2? Are you working on something new or are you inspired by something coming up?
I have a lot of ideas that I have started,
Oh wow. Okay.
and I'm not sure where they're going to go, but I have this idea that I want to start creating like sets of pieces that are under a certain theme, but they're different levels. So that, and I came up with this idea in one of my performance classes because when the week before a recital, we get together in groups and we play for each other. And I originally tried to really curate these classes and think about what people have in common. Okay, well, these kids are homeschooled and these kids are little or whatever. But the last round of performance classes, it was just a hodgepodge because of the everyone's scheduling was so difficult. So I was shifting people all around, and we ended up with the funkiest combinations of students, like a brand new beginner with a 17-year-old composition student who is writing a piano concerto. And so that got me thinking, like, what if we have a set of pieces that is meant to be played by multiple levels, and the theme is the unifying trait, the
Oh, I
what's it?
get it. That's so
Okay, does this make sense?
cool.
Okay. So like Abraham Lincoln, I don't know. And then we have like 4 or 5 pieces all at different levels and have different characteristics to them. And then that's bringing this odd little combination of students together. And then a studio could have, implement that and have all these kids coming together in community.
And what an amazing, imagine that in a recital.
I
And because
know.
I'm so into having my older, advanced kids playing with my brand new kids. It makes me so
Yes.
happy to see it. And the young kids to like look up at the high school kids and be like, feel so cool. And the high school kids to feel so proud. That's an amazing idea. And you're composing around that, having the theme underneath. Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. That's so fun.
Isn't that cool? I think it's fun too. So I might go ahead and go forward. I have a couple of pieces started with that, with 2 different themes.
Okay.
So,
When did the aha moment happen? So you because that's the thing is you pay attention.
mhm.
I think this is your trip is you pay attention to stuff. I'm trying to get your secrets is
Okay. So, yeah,
yeah. So
I
talk
might be
about that.
oddly observant
Okay.
to where it's not healthy. No, just kidding. So, yeah, I do note things and I want I wouldn't say fix, but I want to connect with those things. And then I have the energy to do it. And then I don't try to pick something I don't have the skill set to do on purpose. Sometimes I end up doing that, but yeah, so it just is it feels like a natural fit, and it might feel like it is serving a purpose, but it also feeds me creatively.
It's just so fun. And I'm so glad you shared that story because that the idea is a creative act in itself of being in a group of seeing kids varying levels and ages or whatever. And I'm just picturing in my own scene now, and then
Hmm.
thinking, what would be really cool is if there was a theme and there was different levels to where you could present this together and have this together. And it's just brilliant. And that's the creative moment right
Hmm.
there that will then lead to the other creative moments of building the pieces around it. Right. You've come up with this new idea. And there was one of the last thing I wanted to make sure I asked you about bringing people together is you're interested in camps too, right? And you're doing some work around that, and you've got a new thing coming. Was it Pixels to Piano?
Piano.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tell me, can you talk about that really quickly? Is that connected?
Sure. It is. So I do like to change things up whenever possible. So summer is a great time to do that, just to make sure everything's feeling fresh. So I have run a few camps, but what this really came from was our piano pedagogy conference. That was, again, I had mentioned it from a different year when I met Davis, that is held in Northern Kentucky, which, believe it or not, is like super, super close to Cincinnati. So we just hop on down there. And we had a pedagogy conference that was themed around movie music and video game music. So the idea was there. And then the coordinator of it asked me if I would like to, actually, the coordinator recruited somebody who asked me if I would like to present. And of course, that makes a whole lot of sense because I'm a composer and I do write in the video game style. So I'm like, well, I have to say yes to this because literally, who would be more qualified? Like, this is embarrassing. I have to say yes. I've never presented before. I want to say no really, really bad. So I say yes. And then I spend an inordinate, inefficient amount of time figuring out how to do it. Like, this is my weakness. This is like my kryptonite. But what I was doing though was I was taking something I already was doing in my studio, but just kind of like putting words to it and organizing it. So I took, I don't even know how many genres of video game soundtrack music that I kind of poured over. And I used this book, A Composer's Guide to Game Music by Winifred Phillips, awesome book.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I just kind of took all of these genres and boiled them down to 4 archetypes, which then became characters. Okay, so I've already talked about how when I write for video game music, I try to use the video game style of looping. And so that's what we do with our students. And this is what we do in this camp. So there's 4 different characters. Okay, and so they are explorer, builder, mage, which is like the magician wizard person. I had to learn that word.
Yeah.
And then let's see, a defender. Okay, so in my mind, everything that's written for a video game music comes into one of these funnels. And so then I've made a musical kind of cheat sheet attribute list for each of these characters. And I've given really specific how-tos of how to get started at the piano building these characters. So students are playing right away, and kind of the thing that we had talked about before, where we might loop a 7th chord, right? And
Okay.
then once we're playing, we start to make musical decisions. And we just kind of stay there. We just keep staying at the piano and making sound and making our decisions. And we don't label anything. We sometimes will record just to make sure we don't forget. And that could be like a phone recording, or it could be sketching on a dry erase board. But we're not trying to do official notation for a long time. And then what's really cool is if the teacher chooses, they can start naming the theory concepts that the student did. And they did them usually organically. It's super cool to watch because they're just making the decisions. Well, I want my character. Okay, so I am exploring the fortress in the clouds. So here's the fortress. Picture it floating. Okay, this is one of the songs in Saga Land. And my character, my explorer, falls through the clouds. So I take my loop that I had been nice and stable in creating, and suddenly I'm bringing it down, maybe chromatically, maybe I added glissando going down, but I'm a first person creating the sound of my character. So it's very rewarding actually as a student because it's kind of freeing. They're just being the explorer. They're not being Riley who came to lesson today. And so whatever happens, we're not looking for perfection or judging it. And then the teacher finds it freeing because there is a framework there. So even if you've never taught composition or improv, it kind of has a set of rules that you can follow as long as you want. And I really think that if people started doing this, they would want to do it forever. And then the student would just have a limitless amount of creativity that would come out of it.
Yeah, it sounds so fun. And that's also your secret spice, which is having
Yeah.
this image in your head to start composing from in a groove. And you're doing that with your students. I noticed that one of your characters wasn't protectress. Was it protectress? I saw one of your YouTube videos where you're like trying to say it was one of your characters was
Oh, protracted, the thing where I couldn't stop laughing.
oh my gosh, that was so
That
funny.
Okay, see, that is for a book I did of the modes, and that was one of the Greek goddesses, the protractor. See, I can't say it now.
Yeah, I practiced it before we got on today, and I was like, I'm gonna
Prot-
blow this. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Protractress. It shouldn't
Protectress.
exist.
Yeah,
It's a
but
made-up word.
it was, yeah. Yeah, look that one up. It was one of my favorite videos I saw of yours, actually. I thought it was
Oh,
so funny.
thank
Yeah.
you. I just got to be real.
Yeah, you
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 know,
you certainly do. And hey, this is a lot of stuff we covered. It's a lot of inspiring things that we covered. There's a lot of things I'm excited to try in my studio, but also I know people who are listening hopefully are feeling really similarly that, wow, do the small things, follow the curiosity, do the scary things, know when to say no. But if people want to learn more about these ideas and your work, what's the best way for people to maybe reach out to you or to connect with you or just to learn more about what you do?
A great all-around way is just to go to elizabethswiftpiano.com. I have my studio and my piano music there. And then I do try to stay on Facebook from time to time and post more current things. So I have Elizabeth Swift Piano for that. And you can also find me on Elizabeth Swift on Facebook.
Got
So those
it.
are probably the best ways.
Got it. So your website's the best way to kind of see all the things that we're
I
talking
think
about in
so.
one
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And
Well,
hopefully you can find me on Alfred and pretty soon, in addition to the Saga Land and then the wonderful solo celebration books with multiple composers. Those are also on Alfred. I don't know
awesome.
if you've seen these, but they are
Yes.
amazing
Yeah.
books. And then,
Well,
yeah,
no,
go ahead.
keep going after
I
you.
was just going to say, and then very, very soon, Saga Land 2 on Alfred as well.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to seeing you this next
Yes, I'm
week
so
at
excited to see you in person.
yes. So thank you so much for doing this and for sharing and making the time just as you're getting ready to drive to MTNA. So thank you. This was
My pleasure.
amazing. And
My pleasure.
we should do it again. Yeah. So
Okay. Sounds
thanks.
great.
Thank you,
Thank
Elizabeth.
you.
You've been listening to the 440 podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.